I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is all the mods did. So today is going to be more bees, but I promise you this is going to be a little bit more interesting as we're going to be working on getting specifically spawn eggs from these bees. And this means we're going to dive into the genetic part of the productive bees mod. I mean, don't click away just yet. I promise things are going to be kind of cool, also kind of weird, as we are going to be squishing bees today. I mean, I can't promise that bees will not be harmed in the making of today's episode, but I will say that we will gain some really nice bees that are going to be super helpful to us down the road. And honestly, this is going to be 100% required, in my opinion, for like the all the mod star. Like, I couldn't imagine going after the ATM star without some of these bees that are going to, for example, need to be made with this genetic sequencing. Okay, now that was a big word, genetic sequencing, but I promise it's not as bad as it sounds. Now, why in the world would I want to genetically sample bees? Okay, so there's a few different bees in here that we are really going to need base spawn eggs for in their crafting recipe. A good example of that is the arcane bee, and the arcane bee produces source gems, which is pretty darn cool, right? So we can actually produce source gems from combs, but getting this bee is not super straightforward like the other bees that we have crafted throughout the series. No. This one tells me to acquire this bee, look up the crafting recipe for its spawn egg. And whenever you see this, you know you're going to be in for something special. You see, one of the only ways to get spawn eggs like this is to actually go through the genetic sequencing part of the productive bees mod. And so right here is our arcane bee. And the cool thing is it allows us to incorporate this into other crafting recipes. For example, this is going to be used in the enchanting apparatus, and it's going to require some source gems to make this bee. Completely makes sense. Which means we now need the actual spawn egg for the amethyst bee. Now, the amethyst bee is something we can actually just create. Here is the amethyst bee. It just requires some amethyst or a cluster, and we feed that to a diamond bee, and the diamond bee will convert into an amethyst bee. So now we're at the point where, how do we get this? Well, this is where I said JEI really doesn't describe this very well, but it's at this point we have to understand how we actually get the genes from the actual bees. And it's a good thing I've done this before, because otherwise I would be just as confused as you are, given the lacking documentation here. And yeah, there is technically a quest book that does describe how to do some things and how things work and how you can actually get some genes, but it also doesn't sort of path it out very well, I don't think. So I'm going to try my best to explain it to you the best way possible. And yes, I am getting to it after a 5-minute introduction on what we're doing today. Yes, I'm very self-aware. We need to get ourselves some diamond bees. So I have my lapis and my ender bee in here, and I'm going to just produce as many of these as possible. These speed upgrades make it super fast. It's going to transfer over here utilizing our honey treats, which is going to take quite a few of, and thankfully we can get this done quite quickly. And all of our diamond bees are going to go over here, and we need to convert these into amethyst. So I'm going to be making some of these blocks of amethyst and just getting ourselves some basic amethyst bees. There we go. We have ourselves some amethyst bees, and I'm going to do this for quite a few of them. So now that I have my amethyst bees, the next step is something you might want to shield your eyes from, because we are going to be crushing these bees into jars. Yeah, liquid bee. And honestly, is this how it actually works in real life? If so, I'm even more disturbed. We're going to be using something known as a bottler for this operation. And I can place the bottler right here, but it also needs something else, and that is a piston in order for it to function. So I can place a piston in the upside down facing into this direction with ourselves a lever. I can give this a redstone signal like this. Gonna turn that trapdoor, right? Nope. And with it in its extended position, we should be able to click bees into this position and it automatically get converted. But we are going to need bottles. So putting some bottles in here, we should be ready to make genes. So like I said, shield your eyes if you do not want to see these bees get wrecked. But when placed in here, that then spits out a squished bee material. Yes. And thankfully we don't have to have this going in and out. I used to think we did, but apparently not. You can actually get the squish bee material by just simply placing it in its extended position. But now we need to take this material right here, and I want to collect it automatically. I don't want it to go in my inventory, and I want this to be somewhat semi-automated. So up here, I'm going to use a centrifuge, just like we're using for our combs. And let's see, I need to place this in some position. Maybe right here would be fine for now. And what I want to do is put an advanced collector on this, and this should scoop up any material that's within range. And I think I can define in here in the filter under a whitelist, specifically squished bee material, and I want it to ignore MBT. I just want it to pick up squished bee material and automatically insert it into the centrifuge here. And you know what? I'm actually going to place it down here. I think this will be just fine, doing that same step, just placing that in, making sure it's set to whitelist. That way it only picks up this. Perfect. And then on the bottom, or the back, I should be able to put a gate. This will eventually be covered anyways, but I just need to power it from somewhere because we're also going to need to be able to pull from here. Perfect. So this has power, and if I toss this into the world, that gets collected and it gets into the heated centrifuge and produces these gene samples from that squish bee material. So now for the fun part, we need to index these genes. Now, thankfully in Minecraft, this is way easier than it is in real life, and we'll just have a plain Jane gene indexer, and I'm just gonna place it right here, and I'm gonna have a pipe that is able to send these, or actually a logistical transporter so we can see them happening. I love this idea of just seeing things getting piped through. And there we go. That gets sent into a gene indexer. Okay, so to make this work, we're gonna have to turn it on with some redstone. And no joke, that's literally what it says in its description. It literally says gets turned on by redstone. I get it, it's just asking for redstone, but I still thought it was kind of funny. Anyways, let's go ahead and get that going. And what it's going to do when it has a redstone signal is it will take multiple gene samples and it will combine them together automatically. And we'll be able to see this after giving it a redstone signal. You can see it's like sort of doing a sorting. And what it's doing is it's combining these individual genes here, which all are taking different traits from those bees and storing them into something that we can use later on to modify all of our bees. And you heard me right. You can modify existing bees in the world with a honey treat. And basically, if the honey treat is combined with one of these traits, you can just slap it right onto any of the bees, including productivity, which is kind of cool because the helmet that you see me wearing right here has a chance of producing bees called kamikaze bees that have really high productivity rates, and you can just catch them. And yes, you can also squish them. So now let's see this magic in action. So that ended up squishing the bee, and the gene samples get automatically pulled into here, making this operation really straightforward and easy, honestly. Like this is pretty great. And what we're looking for is to fill up this productive bee's amethyst gene sample all the way to max. And this is where I have said that it's going to take quite a few bees being converted in order to do this, because it's not a 100% chance to even get one each time you do this operation. Now, just in case you were wondering, how in the world are you getting so much pollen to be able to make all those treats? Yeah, this way. Like, yeah, our bees definitely do produce pollen, but this is definitely the better way of sustaining and producing a bunch quickly. And you know what? The more I think about it, it's basically this mod making me work like a bee and collecting pollen. You know what? I just got it. The next thing you know, I'm gonna be the one going into the squeezer. Oh no. So enough postponing. Let's go ahead and make our first bee. And we can do this by taking 100% gene sample that is of a certain bee type. For example, this is the productive bee's amethyst. And we combine that with a honey treat, just like so, and we get ourselves a type amethyst 100% treat. And this is actually how we make our first spawn egg. So we need to take this treat and we combine it with an egg, and that will produce the bee. So inside of here, I'll put that here, and for some reason, a chicken egg turns it into a bee egg. Don't ask me how that's possible. But voila, it's done. And now we have ourselves an amethyst bee spawn egg. Kind of crazy. Now, of course, if I right-clicked this, we could definitely get a amethyst bee, but of course we already have a way of doing that. This is primarily to be able to use it in that crafting recipe, right? Something else you can kind of do to not need so many bees is you can use something called a pokey inside of a hive with a bee, and that will over time get you some samples, but I promise you it's going to be nowhere near as fast as simply doing it this way. And by the way, I wasn't joking when I said it's called a pokey. It's literally called a pokey gene sampler. And what it will do is it will over time collect information or collect those same gene samples every time an operation kind of takes place. The more of them you have, the more gene samples you'll get, and you can have all of those gene samples routed into an indexer, which is kind of nice, allowing you to make even more high quality bees. And it also doesn't kill bees. If you want to go that route, you surely can. But now for the fun part, actually converting this egg into something usable. So with all 8 of these on the pedestal, we can click this in, and there we go. It's going to convert into a bee that will produce source gems. Like, that is so cool. It's just going to be so nice. Like, automating source gems, don't get me wrong, is not a hard process, but having a bee that does it, oh, that's beautiful. Now, to get this bee out, all we have to do is simply place it in somewhere like here, and there we go. There's our arcane bee, and this is how we're going to be setting up all of our bees in the future. By the way, you notice that it says the productivity is normal. We should be able to also change that productivity, and I think we have a high level on the productivity in here. There's dineural, medium. Let's see, do we have a high? 100% gene sample on high. So perfect. So let's get a treat, and I will just show you here how we can also upgrade our bees in the future. So we can make a honey treat that is high, place the bee back in, and just right click it with that honey treat, and now its productivity is set to high. And this is how you can upgrade your individual bees. Now that I have this bee, what if I want to make more of these bees and use that pokey? Well, I can integrate this into our super factory manager, and honestly, this is going to be pretty straightforward and easy. All we have to do is define a container to, for example, send genes to when pulled out of a hive. And if I go back into my config here, all we have to do is just add another output line, just like this, to this section here, except for we will change the output. We'll change this to gene to look for. Gene, and then I'll also just send it to gene, which is where I'm going to define a container. And so it should just output the genes to that location. So when I click done, we just need to send this information into our label gun. So I'll shift right click to pull that new gene identifier, and then I'll just right click this container, and now genes will just get stored into this barrel, which will then get pulled into our indexer. I tell you what, Super Factory Manager is actually insane and so good for this bee automation stuff. Yeah, we just simply now need to define our new hive location. There we go. And it'll also tell us, by the way, we have 8 hives essentially connected, and just push that to here. And the labels are all now pushed. And it should be as simple as us just putting our productivity upgrade in here and getting everything ready to go. So productivity omega, and I'm also going to put 3 of the pokey gene samplers in here, and the more of them you have, the more genes you're going to get right here. It says multiples can be installed for greater gene amounts. Beautiful. That's exactly what we want. And we now want to get our bee in here, and that is going to start harvesting automatically the arcane bee. And also our genes should just compile over here, which will mean that we should also be building up not the amethyst, but the arcane gene samples, meaning we can just simply make a bee that is an arcane the same way we made the amethyst egg. Honestly, a pretty good way of not needing to do this operation over and over again. Now, just to make sure this is fully working, I am going to go ahead and toggle this off right here, and then I'm going to accelerate the hive. So this should start producing those resources, or hopefully start producing, right? This is a dineural, right? And let's see, anything else I need to worry about? Those combs should end up in here. And our output should have amethyst that starts to build up in this, because we're gonna have to define a location for it. Well, I mean, it would work if I actually put a source gem block as its actual feeding slab block. Yeah, because until then, this bee is not gonna function at all. Okay, there we go. So each operation will see genes start to pop up. Those genes, like I said, should make their way into the barrel. And you can see productive bees arcane 2%. And I just need to then pipe that in. Oh, fantastic. So now with that fun out of the way, I've decided to start making more bees. And I've got some special bees that I was looking at. I looked at all the different combs. And for right now, some really helpful bees to me would be like a prosperity bee, which is going to produce prosperity shards, which will help me in making more mystical agriculture stuff. Then we also have the arcanist bee, and I think this will be useful to get started now rather than later. But definitely the spatial bee and also the fluix bee. Like, why would I not want to have like an unlimited amount of like Certus quartz dust and crystals just passively existing? Like, I don't have to craft them from the essence. I can just literally make them and use essence as a backup. And all of this leads into my storage being the way it is. If you remember a few episodes ago, there was a reason why I set up my storage the way that I did. So that way I can go ahead and produce infinite resources from things like that and have a place to put them. For example, like all of my stuff going here, all of this leading up the walls, and I have so much room to just produce an infinite amount of literally anything. The only thing that's going to be a problem is just simply having more spaces to put these things in, and this is where the copy paste tool really comes into play. I've got this somewhat sort of organized like this, and so now I can just simply copy it, and we can paste this over here. And the cool thing is we can rotate this 2 times, and it will be in the perfect position. Now, it might not have all the blocks required, but it's a start, right? And so I can actually see what all blocks are missing. Most of them are going to get placed in. Oh, it's so good. You know what? I still can't thank Dire enough for just making an unbelievable tool like this. I mean, if you've ever played Satisfactory, for example, you'll understand like how amazing blueprints are and things like that, or any game that has like a blueprint manager. This is so nice, saving so much time. The amount of time, honestly, that I have saved because of this mod is, I can't even repay Dire enough for that. So please, if you haven't already, definitely check out Direwolf20. He is actually playing this as of the time of me recording this and is working on a series himself. So definitely give Dire some love over on his channel. Just give it an old Google search or a YouTube search for Direwolf20. I mean, to be fair, without Dire, you wouldn't even have Chosen content, to be honest, because he was one of the biggest inspirations for me starting my channel in the first place. So now this area is definitely successfully copied, giving us significantly more space for our hives. But how easy is it actually to bring the Super Factory Manager program over to this? Well, this is where it's actually insanely powerful, right? Because all you have to do is just simply copy all of this and, well, just paste it into that one. And then I can just shift right click to then pull up into my programmer and we're ready to go, right? So I can edit this and just paste and it's done. Then I can shift right click on here to load up the labels into the label manager. And then just like everything else, we just need to define this side. So yeah, each time we just shift right click and we will just have to add and paste as we go. Pretty darn cool, honestly. Like, the more I learn about the SFM, the more I'm just wanting to use it exclusively for everything. And then right click. Perfect. So all of that is now pushed into here and this is just running like the other side. You've just got to make sure that all of these cables are connected to not only the Super Factory Manager, but also all of the blocks that it's technically interacting with. I don't know. There's just something about this that is super rewarding, actually. Like converting all of these bees, for example, it's just something that, I don't know, like for a video like that I'm making here, like me showing the production of all of these bees, it would get kind of tedious, but man, just doing this process, there's something about this I really enjoy. I am, however, finding that really hard to convey for a video like this. So now there are some bees that will produce fluids, and I haven't really talked about how we're going to go about handling this, but I'm almost positive that the fluid would basically fill up where this honey is currently located. And right now, honey is not a big deal. Honey gets generated, but it will not stop the production. However, it would be nice if we could take any fluid that generates in here and if we can store it into the same place that we're actually storing our items. And believe it or not, the functional storage mod can support storing fluids. Now, this is going to require kind of a shift in our SFM setup, but honestly, not by too much. And we're going to utilize the dimensional storage for this. So how exactly is this going to work? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start for example, an area over here that is going to be our first fluid. And I have designed this drawer, which I think fits perfectly into here, and this is going to contain fluids. Now I do need to lock this, and these can be locked just like the other methods, right? And we can use a bucket of fluids to define what this drawer is set to. I'm sure this issue will be fixed in the future, but for right now, the best way to know if this particular drawer is locked or not, because the icon, for example, is not displaying as locked, is if you can put a fluid in, because with it being locked right now, you can't click a fluid in. So just make sure that you have it unlocked and then click the fluid in that you want to assign to this tank when we set a filter. For example, this is the honey, by the way, and then I can lock it. If it is locked, I can pull the fluid out and you'll see a little bit of residual left behind. That way you know this tank is locked, especially if you're using these. Of course, the lock indicator does work on the regular fluid drawer, so if you're not decorating, then you won't really have to worry about anything. But just like everything else, this gets placed right on in, and then we just have to link it just like that. And so now we have fluid that is stored, and we can actually access this with our controller. And cool thing is we should be able to already see honey and fluid form inside of our applied logistics system as well. So now for the hard part, actually changing our factory manager. And yes, this is going to clog up some things for a little bit, but I think it will be fine. What I want to do is down underneath here, I'm actually going to place our 2 containers. I am going to have to drop these down a little bit as well. So I'll take my ferro flare and our mega torch and just simply move it down 1. That way we still have the protections of those things. Perfect. But right here, we're going to put our dimensional chest. And then over here, we will put a tank. Now, I actually want this tank to be on frequency 2. So it's going to be on a new frequency that'll be completely empty. And that means another dimensional tank we're going to also have to use. But this is where we can run down a cable that is connected to both of these. And then we just have to tell this network what these are. But you may be also wondering, well, how do you move fluids around with Factory Manager? Well, there are examples, and you can actually click the resource type here. And this is dynamically generated depending on what pack you're in. And these are all examples of things that we can move. For example, forged energy, chemicals, fluids, gases, slurries. There's pigments, infusions, items, all of these things we can use to move things. And it gives you an example up here. If we just want to move all fluids, we can do that with an input fluid from blank and output fluid to blank. So this is pretty cool, and we can just simply add this to our current setup. And just like with all the examples, you can actually just copy and paste this into your current existing code. So let's add a new line here, and we are going to say input fluids, all fluids, from A, which we're actually going to define. I'm going to go ahead and say tank to storage. So we have tank to storage, and then I'm also going to change this output line here, and this is going to be storage. And then up here, this is going to be chest, right? So we have chest to storage, tank to storage, and this is defining fluids. This is going to do items. So I can now take this and copy to all other lines, and basically what I'm doing here with all of these other lines, which is kind of interesting in its own right. I should remove all of these like comment sections. I am essentially making it work faster than every 20 ticks. And somebody was telling me that there are other ways you could do this. There are apparently ways of making it work every tick, but the way that I have this set up here is this code essentially is going to run every 5 ticks. So yeah, I'm just basically copying and pasting new setups. And yeah, it's just running every 5 ticks. But once that code's defined, here we go again with our labeler. We are going to shift right click to generate this. And you can see that we do have to change some things. We no longer are using A and B, so we'll clear this. And I think we have to actually go in and like A and B, for example, are still technically defined, and we'll undefine that. There's A. And then A looks like it's also defined on the sides as well. Primary thing we need to label is our chest. And so that is going to be this right here. And then we need to label our tank, which is going to be this right here. And then we'll just label our storage, which is going to be the block connected right here. Perfect. So now we have all of those labeled. We can simply send to here. And now we should notice that all of the items are being moved again. But now technically fluids are being moved again. So this is where we need to create a new program for or a new section to our program that is going to handle fluids being sent to and fro from our centrifuge. So back in here, we're just defining our fluids, and we can use basically the same labelers here. We're going to input from the centrifuge, so I can copy this, and we shouldn't have to redefine this, thankfully, for the centrifuge, because we're going to be inputting fluid from the centrifuge, and we're going to send it to tank. So perfect. All we have to do now is just simply define tank, and that should allow us to send it to this dimensional tank, which I can also set to 2. There we go. Hit change. Perfect. Now I'm hoping this is going to start filling up, and it should start filling our area up with honey. I do have to set this down here, connected somewhere along this line. I can actually attach it right here. And let's go ahead and grab those labels for specifically tank, since we already have the centrifuge defined. So shift right click to pull. And then tank is new. Let's define that. And as soon as I send this back, that tank should start filling up, and we should start seeing honey building up inside of here until it reaches its maximum, right? So I'll right click, and there we go. We notice honey immediately start filling up. Oh, this is so powerful. And what's going to make this even more powerful is utilizing this void upgrade inside of this drawer. Something I'm also noticing, this doesn't look like it's filling up, but the number is going up in here. Wait, what? Okay, so there might actually be an issue with using these framed drawers. I'm just going to go ahead and try to switch this over to the other version of this. Yeah, because this technically isn't rendering like it's supposed to. Even though it was filled, it wasn't actually rendering the honey existing inside. So I'm just going to go with regular ones for right now. I would love to have the decorative ones, but it doesn't appear like it's connecting properly. So now that that is corrected, there we go. We can actually see the fluid filling up into these like it's supposed to. And we can put these upgrades in. That's going to hold a lot of fluids, but the thing that's going to make this really worthwhile is the void upgrade, because once it does reach max, it will just simply start to void the excess honey, which we need if we start to use other fluids. Ah, this is beautiful. We can see the fluids going in here, using that as a method of wireless transportation. And perfect. So what does this mean? Well, it means that I can now farm another bee, and that bee is actually going to be the soul lava bee, which we're going to need in the future. Soul lava, believe it or not, has some uses down the road for making like unobtainium and things like that. You know, the alloys. So now for the ultimate test, going ahead and making that soul lava bee, right? So I do have my soul lava here. Let's go ahead and make sure this is set to off. Perfect. I have my productivity upgrade ready to go, and I just need a bucket. And what we're going to do is we are going to tell this, it's weird that that turned there. We're going to basically change these bees right here into soul lava bees. Perfect. And I'll pick that up. And now that we have this, I just got to get through all of these. I'll put them in a hive, and those combs should produce liquid in here. So now with the soul lava bee in place, we can accelerate this a little bit to hopefully get some of those soul combs. Oh, that's right. We are going to need something for this. Ah, it needs soul lava. I almost wonder if it needs to be like specifically a bucket of soul lava in front, or can a bucket of soul lava actually work? Though it does appear like it needs actual soul lava. I think I can place this directly in front like this, and this should also simulate. I could be wrong. We might actually have these bees in world. No, it can work just like that. Okay, so the fluid can be directly in front. So here's our soul lava. Okay. So what I want to test is taking these out. Notice soul lava is building up, and it's going somewhere, and it's going into that tank, right? So that tank should now be filling up both sides of the inner tank, which is underneath here. And as soon as I basically say soul lava, like a bucket, as soon as I put that inside of here, we can just add this to our drawer network, and that's where it's all going to go. I mean, honestly, this is super, super cool. Like being able to do all of this. Oh man, I want to lock this drawer, and then I'm just going to add that to the network, and notice it already starting to go up. Oh, and now we're handling multiple fluid inputs. So man, I hope this didn't fly over anyone's head. Honestly, all of this can be done without the use of the Super Factory Manager, but I tell you what, I recommend learning it or using my video as a guide for it and getting through it, because it'll save you so much time, because it's kind of a set it and forget it, get it kind of thing, where you can just simply define more inputs in the future. If we need more centrifuge, all I have to do is just add another one and just connect it to the cable and redefine the centrifuge as the locations that the stuff needs to go to. Like, I mean, honestly, you can't beat it. And of course, just to simply prove a point, like I'm just adding more of them here like this. I can place these power sources on the top. Oh man, all of this is good. I'll put my speed upgrades in here and we don't have to change any other factors. Everything is just going to simply work. It is weird seeing the soul lava go into here. But as soon as I apply the label for these being a centrifuge and then also apply them for the scent, then these should all just be casually accepting more combs. Or at least it should. Well, as soon as I push the labels, that is. Of course, I've got to push the labels, and there we go. So now we have all of these running as well, and everything is just going to be handled the same way, being now spread evenly through all of them. So now with all of this knowledge about bees and how to definitely like manage all of the drops and stuff like that, moving forward and just creating any generalized bee in the future is going to be pretty straightforward. And believe me, it'll be straightforward for you if you followed everything thus far. So guys, if you did enjoy, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already and give this video a huge thumbs up. And now guys, it is time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to none other than Hunter of Fish. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible and absolutely going above and beyond, my friend. Thank you so very much. And of course, guys, I look forward to seeing you, whether that's over on the Discord, here in the YouTube comments, or over on Twitch. And guys, I look forward to seeing you there. And as always, thanks for watching.